Speaking of what could be out of line, I mean, apparently this is a big deal. If you have like a staff member, you're a team, a college football team, and like one of your staff members who's making like $55,000 a year, he just happens to, buy tickets to like 11 different Big Ten schools games, like 30 games in total, and, happens to sit across in clear sight of where he can see what signals are being used on the other sideline. Apparently that's a big deal. All right. And apparently that's how things went down in Michigan because your buddy, the Thamel Camel, Pete Thamel of ESPN, went into a deep dive, an investigation, if you will, and found out that this gentleman, this Connor Stallions individual, who's been suspended with pay, he bought a bunch of tickets. He would transfer tickets to other people, and they would all sit in just the same general vicinity over the past couple of years to try and get a decent look at what these signs were that were being used by future opponents of the Michigan Wolverines. So,
a lot of things I'm curious about with the story. The first being the timing of it. People will point out that maybe it was brought to light by Greg Schiano from their earlier game this season with Rutgers when he made some comments publicly. There's a thought that if you look over the past 2 years, the success that Jim Harbaugh has had, winning 2 Big Ten championships, whether or not that's played a role in all this. They are over this period of time where Stafford Connor Stallions has been allegedly doing this. They are 23-11-2 against the spread. I'm not sure if that matters a ton, but there is that number for you out there. There's a few interesting thoughts to this. The first being is how far up does it go? As the NCAA does its investigation, Stallions has been suspended with pay, by the way, pending the outcome of the investigation based on these accusations. But I'm kind of curious as to the timing of it. Why now? Who's the whistleblower to all this? Is it just the teams that they've played against? It feels like this has been known for a while, at least as you read into it. And on top of it, after everything that happened earlier this year where based on the recruiting violations that were committed by Michigan during the COVID dead period, Harbaugh and Michigan, they basically did a self-suspension or self-punishment in hopes of that this upcoming spring, summer, the NCAA won't tag on anything in addition to that. But because of how difficult Harbaugh was to deal with during that investigation, it seems like there's something else going on here with the NCAA. They either have a bone to pick or maybe there was someone within that was able to bring this to light to start to provide a lot of these details, even though a lot of schools had already known it was going on.
It's not.
So,
I'm sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was going to say
ahead.
it's not the most elaborate scam we've ever seen. The Astros and the electronic devices and the trash cans and all that stuff, there was a little bit more detail, felt like, going into it. This feels like something that anybody could do and probably does do.
I was just going to say, so here's where I get skeptical of it. Other teams do this, all right? They just haven't been caught. Sign stealing has gone on forever. You want me to give you the simple solution to all this?
Yeah.
Coach the quarterback. Do exactly what they do in the NFL. There you have it. You speak into the helmet, tell the quarterback what the play is. You speak into the helmet, tell the linebacker, whoever it is on defense, what the defense is. Done. You don't have to worry about it. This is now a non-issue if you want to get rid of it. So all they have to do is make that subtle change. This is never an issue for any teams, whatever, moving forward. No idea why the NCAA wouldn't put or implement a rule like this. But beside that point, okay, there's other schools and teams that do this. And clearly they're just maybe better at getting away with it. But it feels like for a guy with the background that Connor Stallions has as a very reputable decoder, that he wouldn't have been so sloppy with how he did this. He's got his name in buying some of these tickets to opposing schools.
Right.
I'll just put it this way. Like, we've all got friends who have gambled before it was legal to gamble. And not many, not many of them were using their real name, whether it's an offshore book or whatever other account they've got. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Am I elaborating?
That is 100% accurate.
So why would you think then that a guy who is the guy supposedly to steal signals at Michigan, why would you think then that he's going to use his name and be so, I guess, putting himself at risk or out there like that, knowing what he was doing was illegal? The whole thing seems really fishy, every little piece of it. And I know there's probably Ohio State fans that are like, oh, it's Michigan, they cheated. It's like, well, be careful. Be careful now, all right? I'm just telling you, a lot of coaches that I've talked to don't want to talk about it or make any public accusations for a reason. For a reason. And anyone who's out there that says, oh, this doesn't go on, it's just Michigan, they're lying to you or they're ignorant to how the game of football is today, at least at the college level. So heed those words, because anyone who tells you it's not going on elsewhere, anyone who tells you, all right, they don't know anything about it. I've never heard of this, but they are ignorant to the game of college football and how this has gone on for a long time. This is nothing new.
And there's almost an honor amongst thieves with stuff like this. It's like the Lance Armstrong. You know, Lance Armstrong was the face of the scandal in cycling of guys taking PEDs. And then all of a sudden you found out, oh, everybody else was on the gas too. He was just better at it. Or he was the one that they wanted to go after. It feels like we're kind of seeing a little bit of this here. And yeah, you touched on this Friday when we were doing the show at the Graduate in Columbus, that Jim Harbaugh's a difficult guy to deal with, and that he may have burned a few bridges from time to time, whether it be with the media or whether it be with, you know, his own athletic director or whatever the case is. He had issues with Jed York in San Francisco when he was the coach there. That was part of that falling out as well, too. It does feel like if you looked hard enough, you could find something like this with every single program, or at least majority of programs around college football. And there's also this, like when people are saying, oh, so now it all makes sense. Okay, if you read the Yahoo article that came out before the weekend, I think on Friday it came out, one of the details in the Yahoo article was that Big Ten schools have been suspecting this has been going on. So in preparation to play Michigan, they stopped using signs and they started going to the wristband. Well, guess what happened this year? Michigan still beat everybody's ass by like 35 a game. So it's not like this is the reason Michigan has had success the past couple of years, but it does feel like this is going to be the go-to for why Michigan's had success. And I just don't think that's the case. I really don't.
It's not. And that's the hard part is like there's maybe only a handful of games where you could say like, oh, they maybe use this to their advantage, right? And it's not hard. You just change your signals up. I mean, let's be real. Like to act like this doesn't – I'll go back to the NFL. Even in the NFL, with the coach, the quarterback, we would listen back to our games on TV. Any word we said that you could hear, we always thought or knew there's the potential of the defense to know them that we're playing next. So what would we do? We change whatever word that is. It's not hard. If we saw a signal, hey, that was the camera guy, got a good shot of that. Let's change that up this week. Or, hey, let's use that maybe for – it was a slant last week, now it's a slant and go this week. That stuff goes on all the time. It's part of the game. And it's just, to me, if it's used as the justification for why Michigan has won, it's excuses by teams who just can't be honest with themselves, the fact they got beat. This Michigan team right now might be, and I think it is, the best team in the country. They're as deep, they're as good as ever. They've recruited, they've developed, they've done all of that. That has nothing to do with sign stealing. And I know there's probably a lot of people in Ohio that are going to be frustrated by it. But the reality is, the past two games when they've played Michigan, they can blame it on sign stealing, but Michigan was just the better team both those games. That's not an opinion, it's fact. It's not like those games were close and it came down to a couple plays here or there. They were just the better team. So this is going to get blown out of proportion as far as the impact that it's had on Michigan. And it's probably going to push Jim Harbaugh to take the Chicago job if it became open, maybe the Chargers job if it came open, or another NFL job if it came open, because it does feel like Harbaugh's been looking for an out, but they've never been in a better spot. And so the timing of all this feels a bit odd as to why it's surfaced now, why it's become an issue now. even though this season they've played a weak schedule. It's not like it's really, aided them in getting to the point where they're at right now. They haven't needed to do any of that stuff, I'm sure, to beat the teams the way they have so far this season.